Hello, hello. Thank you so much for being here. Please say hello in the chat and introduce yourself to each other. Let us know which chapter you're joining from and how full your creative tank is feeling from a scale of 1 to 10. My name is Rachel Elnar. I am your host. Also say hello to our welcome committee, Stacy and Alberto and Heather. They are watching the chat. Gently this time, no pressure. Folks, this is a supportive room. Just honest conversation and maybe just a little permission to rest. I'm your host, Rachel Elnar. Like I said, I'm an AIJ National Board member, and this AIJ Monthly Member Series is designed to help creatives survive work with a little more clarity and less emotional chaos. This institute gives no grades or credits, but the skills are very real because creative work is high visibility work, and burnout does not announce itself before it shows up. Hello, hello for everyone joining today. I see that Alberto is here from Puerto Rico. Hello, Audrey from San Diego, Dan from Las Vegas. We have Rachel from Oslo, Norway. Oh my gosh, Brittany from New York City. We've got Heather from upstate New York. We've got everybody here. Again, a shout out to everyone currently running on fumes and a deadline you're about to have a fun time and you're going to be among friends. All right, so let's talk about what is ahead. All right, you are in the Practical Institute of Creative Survival today. And the classroom that you're sitting in right now is the Design 0626, Protecting Your Energy in High Pressure Creative Environments. Today is about something most of us don't talk about until we're already deep into it, which is burnout, imposter syndrome, and the cost of being constantly evaluated for living. All right, so this is what we're covering today, your ideas and your taste all on display all the time. The visibility is a part of the job. So protecting your energy isn't a nice to have on top of that. It's what makes a creative practice sustainable in the first place. So we will cover what protecting your energy looks like when the deadlines stop. And our instructors today are Barney Abramson, and he is a award-winning creative director, and Alicia Abramson, licensed marriage and family therapist. Together, they bring real-world creative pressure and real clinical tools to the same conversation, which is exactly the combination that this topic needs. So, today's lesson plans looks like this. We're going to go over a few member spotlights celebrating the AIGA community. Then Barney and Alicia's lesson. We will just definitely bring a notebook or at least an open mind. And finally, we'll have a pop quiz because knowledge is fun when prizes are involved. All right, so just a quick note after the session, class is out for the summer, so I hope you enjoyed this semester of classes. We will be taking a quick hiatus. And if you have any questions at this time, just drop them into the chat and we will bring them into the conversation. And lastly, just because we get this question a lot, this session is being recorded. The replay will be public on the AIGA Design YouTube channel tomorrow. But because you are an AIGA member, you get live access to Barney and Alicia right now. So take advantage and ask your questions. And also, this series is more than just learning, it's about community. So, we're going to meet some AIGA members. Leading us through our AIGA member spotlights today is Jen Ford. She is a true powerhouse. She is the vice president of the AIGA National Board, president emeritus, and founding president of AIGA Gainesville, and executive director of marketing and communications at the University of Florida College of Journalism and Communications. See, I told you she's a powerhouse. Welcome, Jen.
Thanks so much, Rachel. It's good to be here.
Yeah, it's great. All right, take it away.
AIJ has always been built by its members. That's really what makes us strongest. The people who show up, who get involved, and make this community worth being a part of. In this segment, we ask one simple question. Why does AIGA membership matter to you? So first up on this feature, we have Johnny Arvizu. He's the founder of Trapdoor Studio and member of AIGA Arizona. For over 2 decades, Johnny has built a career across branding, illustration, apparel, murals, and campaigns, working with everyone from local Phoenix businesses to globally recognized brands like Netflix. His philosophy is simple. Great branding isn't a logo, it's a living visual system that helps a brand feel alive. On what AIGA means to him, he says, a creative community is the third space, the place beyond home and work that gives life dimension and connection. AIGA is that space for designers. And I couldn't agree more. Thank you, Johnny. Next, we have Yana Grishuk, multidisciplinary designer, art director, founder of Delicate Matter, and member of AIGA Las Vegas. With more than 15 years' experience, Yana helps brands communicate clearly through thoughtful design, work that spans branding, art direction, and creative strategy. Her answer to why AIGA matters is shown through practice, showing up again and again as a jury member, a conference committee volunteer, and a portfolio reviewer. Thank you for your service, Yana. Our final spotlight is Andres Sandrea Soto, Venezuelan-born designer, web designer at Juniper Brands, and member of AIGA Orlando. Andreas first joined AIGA Orlando through the student membership program and has stayed connected ever since, through workshops, community events, and even shirt printing nights. On what AIGA means to him. As a Latino immigrant, I've often felt like I didn't quite belong to certain groups, but AIGA and the design community have been incredibly welcoming and supportive. Thank you, Andreas. Every month we get to do this. We get to stop and say, hey, look at all of these awesome people. Look at what they're building. So nominations for this come from chapter leaders and members just like you. So if someone in your world deserves a moment in this spotlight, please tell us about them.
Thanks, Jen. Appreciate it. And by the way, Yana is in the chat. Yana, I'm so glad that you're here. Thank you, Jen. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Rachel.
Thank you so much for introducing us to those members for sure. Nominations are open to be spotlit, including yourself, and chapters will give you a little love. The link will be provided in the follow-up email. All right, folks, so we're going to get now to the good stuff. All right, so we're going to get into our lesson. All right, I know today's topic is is a lot that we need, especially me right now, because creative work asks so much of us. And somewhere along the line, I'm tired just turned into I might be burning out. And most of us didn't notice the moment it shifted, at least for me. So I want you to help me welcome our instructors today, Creative Director Barney Abramson and licensed marriage and family therapist Alicia Abramson. Hello, hello.
Hello.
Welcome,
Hi,
welcome.
Rachel. Thank you for having us today. We're very happy to be here.
I'm very excited.
We're so glad that you're both here. And I just have to say that this is a topic that feels extremely relevant to pretty much everyone in this chat right now. Maybe everyone in the world is how I'm feeling it. And we're really excited to learn how to recognize burnout before it flattens us and how to manage imposter syndrome, at least for me, when our work is always on display. And I'm told a 3-minute reset can actually is something that we can use today.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And quickly, again, if you guys have any questions for Barney and Alicia, definitely drop them in the chat and we will bring them in. All right. How are we feeling? Is everyone ready to get started?
We're ready.
Okay.
We're excited.
All right. So we'll get started. Thank you.
So first of all, we're super excited to be here. We're thrilled and happy to see Yana on the chat as well, and just seeing everyone active on the chat. It's very exciting. My name is Barney Abramson, and I spent the past 2 decades leading creative teams, working on everything from world-class branding campaigns to mentoring hundreds of designers. Along the way, I've seen firsthand how demanding this industry can be. The deadlines, the pressure to always be on, and the burnout that so many of us carry quietly. That's what led us to build Thriving Creatively. Our goal was very simple. We wanted to create a space where creative professionals feel seen, supported, and have the tools to better manage their mental health. And with that, I'll hand it over to Alicia.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. We're grateful to be here and excited to spend some time. We started out virtually, so this is familiar, full circle back together. Yeah. But it's a little different than our format, so we're a little more off the cuff, a little less constrained on time. Anybody who's worked with us, we always have more to say. So bear with us today because we don't aim to be perfect. We aim to be authentic. So you'll see us glancing in our notes, perhaps even stumbling, but that's so that we can embrace our authenticity and show up as we are and not be hindered with that imposter syndrome of we're not good enough to be sitting here. Absolutely. So before we dive in, I want to take a moment to do a quick grounding exercise. Creatives work, it moves fast, it's ever changing. So sometimes it's nice to just pause, catch our breath, and really engage. So if everyone could take a moment, I'd like you to take a big, deep breath in. Hold that breath. Big exhale. We always want to exhale longer than we inhale so that we don't go into hyperventilation. So one more deep breath in. Hold and exhale out. Take a moment to feel your feet if they're sitting on the ground. I don't know if everyone's sitting flat or if they're laying down. Laying down is a valid option. Sitting crisscross, whatever you need. But find your feet. Feel them solidly. Wiggle that left big toe. How often have you thought about your left big toe? Probably not that often, right? But I want you to wiggle it around. Really ground yourself into your body. Feel the seat underneath you. Feel the support that it's giving you. If you have a back behind you, I want you to lean back into it. Drop your shoulders. They're not supposed to be earrings, so get them down where they belong. And just take a minute to relax yourself, drop your jaw, and let's get into this. Barney, I want to thank you for inviting me to be a part of this work. One of my favorite things that we get to do together is bringing both perspectives to this conversation. As was mentioned, I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist, and I love working with Thriving Creatively because I get to teach people not to avoid pressure, but to manage pressure.
Right.
Creative work is rewarding and demanding. So our goal is to help you build sustainable careers and meaningful lives without losing yourself in the process. So with that, I'd like to turn it back over to Barney so he could tell you how we got here.
Yep. So how we got here, great question. So for nearly 20 years, I've worked in the casino gaming industry in Las Vegas, and I led a talented creative team responsible for some of the biggest marketing initiatives in our company. And every year we prepare for a massive trade show called G2E that happened every October. For months, we'd create everything imaginable: booth graphics, sales materials, videos, presentations, interviews, signage, you name it. My team was responsible for it. And it was high profile work. It was high pressure work. And honestly, I absolutely loved it. I just loved it. I was doing exactly what I had always wanted to do. I was leading talented creative people. I was producing award-winning work. I was working for a respected company. And I was really hitting all the creative milestones that I spent years chasing. But then something strange started happening. Over time, I began losing my passion for the work. Projects that used to excite me started feeling exhausting. My patience got a lot shorter. I became a lot more irritable, not just at work, but also at home. And I'm sure you can remember those days.
Yeah, at home, it's interesting to work with somebody who's I'm fine. He's always fine. He might be short. He may be distracted. He may be forgetting goals.
Right.
But if you asked him if everything was good, he would just say, I'm fine.
Yeah. So yeah, that went on for a while. And then the physical symptoms started showing up. The high blood pressure, stomach issues. I even ended up having stomach surgery, thinking I had a hernia or something else. And then the stress that's just really followed me everywhere that I went. So at first I thought I just needed a vacation. So taking Fridays off, going on trips and taking vacations. But then I started feeling really insecure about my work. And I thought that, maybe I just needed to work harder. Maybe I just needed to push through it all. But eventually I realized that something much bigger was happening. And it was that I wasn't tired. I was actually burning out. And what surprised me the most about burnout is that it didn't happen right away. And it didn't happen because I hated my job. It happened while I was doing the work that I really wanted to do. The work wasn't really the problem. It was the pressure. It was the expectations. It was the lack of having boundaries that really affected me. So when I started learning more about burnout, I realized that I wasn't alone. Many creative professionals were experiencing exactly the same thing that I was experiencing. So that ultimately led to Alicia and I building Thriving Creatively. Because if the creative work that we do, that we all love doing, can impact our well-being so deeply, then we needed better tools and we need better conversations and better ways to protect ourselves from doing the work that we care. Yeah. So that's kind of what I experienced. And I thought it was very unique, but it's happening across our industry. And I think we want to share some numbers now. And as you can see, across the industry, we're having creative professionals are being affected, I believe, or we believe, in much higher rates than other professionals. And the one statistic that really comes to mind here is the 1 in 3 design professionals have considered leaving the industry due to stress or feeling overwhelmed. And I have to say that I am one of those three people that, nearly left the industry because I didn't have the tools to deal with burnout. So I think with that, we want to go into our topic for today, and we want to learn a little bit about burnout.
Okay, that's great. So what is burnout? It's the buzzword that we've been talking about. And like Barney just said, it doesn't happen. It's not a light switch that suddenly flips. It's the result of chronic stress that builds over time. I want you to imagine, everyone, that you're wearing a backpack. Every day, without fails, someone adds a water bottle to that backpack. That water bottle could be from your supervisor giving you a task that's not clear. It could be from a partner trying to ask you what's wrong and you're not ready to talk about it. But every day that bottle keeps coming. The first bottle doesn't seem so hard. The second, the fifth, maybe even the 10th, if you feel like you can handle even more. But eventually that weight starts to change you. It changes how you move, so you adjust your posture. You slow down. You start taking different paths to do certain things because others just feel so hard. You avoid the things that you used to enjoy because carrying that backpack with you to social events, to connections with others, just feels overwhelming. So you become normalized to it, this pain that's impacting you. This is what chronic stress does. Mental health, I lost my spot. Mental health is our ability to handle stress, think clearly, and maintain healthy relationships. We have to recognize our own worth, which is where imposter syndrome comes in, and recover from the challenges that we endure every day through resilience. When stress goes unaddressed, it affects our creativity, our motivation, decision-making, and eventually our physical health. I talk about the Sunday scaries a lot with clients. You know, you don't want to go to bed Sunday night because you don't want Monday to come because work just feels overwhelming. The weekend doesn't reset you in the way that it used to. So when we start looking at that, we also become decision fatigued. You can't decide what to do outside of work, let alone inside of work. And how do you create something from nothing, which is what designers do, when you can't even trust yourself to make those decisions? So anxiety, avoidance, and disconnection begins to replace your curiosity, your confidence, and your joy in your job. For creatives, burnout becomes even more complicated because your identity is tangled up within your work. When your worth becomes dependent on what you produce, the feedback becomes feeling like personal criticism, rest feels undeserved, and self-doubt gets louder until the passion for the work becomes dread for the day-to-day activity. The good news is burnout isn't weakness, and it isn't permanent. Barney's here. He's still working. We're telling the story from many years ago, thankfully. And we'll talk about the things that will help you remove some of those water bottles by using boundaries, engaging in community and recovery, and re-engaging your identity outside of your work is very important to eliminate these burnout moments. They're not going to eliminate stress completely. We need stress. We have eustress and distress. So we have the good and the bad of that. So stress moves us forward, but we want to make sure it is a creative level of stress and not a collapsing level of stress, because the goal isn't to carry no water bottles. The goal is to carry only your water bottles and not everything else. And as long as we recognize what's happening, it's easier to engage with. I tell my clients all the time, if we can name it, we can treat it. So that's what we're here to do today. We're naming the burnout so that we can treat it.
Absolutely. And what better way to do that than to tell a story? And I think this is one of the pre-requirements for this session. So I came prepared. So a few months ago, my team was dealing with a project that came in very late. And whenever a project comes in late, you already know what's going to happen, right? Everybody has to work really fast. And what made this particular project even more challenging was the fact that it was a new client and we were still learning the account. We were still trying to find the right assets for the client, and we didn't have all the specs that we needed. And so there was a lot of ambiguity for the project. And the timeline obviously didn't really change. It was incredibly tight. We had 24 to 48 hours to turn this around. So I remember when this came in, I remember feeling very frustrated immediately. Not because we couldn't do the work, but because I felt like we were being put in a position where the team couldn't do their best work. And that just really started making me frustrated. And if I'm being honest, I really was agitated. Not at the project, again, not at the company, not at the process, but at everything. I was just, it's like moment when that cloud comes over you, and it just kind of lays on you until you are able to figure it out. So that was really me at the moment. I was feeling the pressure. And one thing that I've learned about burnout is that it doesn't always go away forever. It's something that you have to kind of learn to deal with. And for me now, burnout kind of shows up in different ways. Sometimes I'm feeling exhausted. Sometimes I'm a big cynic about everything. And then sometimes I just get very frustrated. But thankfully, through the work that Alicia and I do with Thriving Creatively, I was able to recognize what was happening and I knew that I needed to step away. So that's exactly what I did. For me, being outside, nature, feeling the outdoors really makes it's really the fastest way for me to reset my nervous system. So I went outside, I got some sun. I tried to burn off a lot of that pent up nervous energy that I was having. But honestly, that really wasn't working. I was still feeling very frustrated and wasn't able to kind of reset my nervous system. So I had tightness in my chest. My thoughts were racing. And I just felt like I was carrying a lot of stress. So I kept walking. I sat down at a bench and I thought, you know what? Let me do some breathing exercises. So I started breathing and I felt like I was feeling a little bit better. And then I went into my phone. Alicia and I take a lot of photography. I'm always pointing at everything. I'm like one of those old dads taking pictures. And so I have a lot of photos on my phone about trips. We love fishing. So we go out, we do a lot of hiking and fishing. So I had a lot of pictures on my phone. And as I was going through my pictures, I saw a picture of a catfish that I caught recently. And I immediately started to smile. And then I started to laugh. And then my mood started changing. And I immediately felt like, okay, I'm finally turning a corner here. And I'm starting to feel more like myself. So I was able to get up, go back upstairs. I felt focused. I started, instead of focusing on everything that was wrong, I started thinking of solutions, how I can solve this problem, who could help me, what conversations I needed to have, what kind of resources I needed to get for the team to get this done. So by the time I got upstairs, I was completely in a different place mentally. I was connected. I connected with a few folks, talked to my director, talked to other managers, and together we were able to put the project back on track. And like always, we delivered the project successfully, and I was very happy about that. One thing that I really appreciated was that my team felt supported during the entire experience because of how I was able to handle the situation, and we were all able to move forward. So the interesting part of this whole story is that the project didn't change, the timeline didn't change, the client didn't change. The only thing that changed was me. It was how I reacted to the situation. So when Alicia and I talked about it afterwards, we realized that there were three things that really were happening kind of underneath it all. And that was pressure, uncertainty, and identity. And those were really the three things that affected me the most. And that's really what we would like to kind of unpack next. Mm-hmm. So let's go into the three pillars of burnout. So moving on. So I guess we'll go through this together. Do you want to do that?
Yeah, that sounds good.
Yeah. So again, the first thing that I was feeling during this moment was the pressure, right? It was a tight deadline. We didn't have everything we needed. It was a new client. I felt insecure. The team felt insecure to get going. And we had 24 to 48 hours, and we just felt like we were under a lot of pressure.
Mm-hmm. And I think for you, having that pressure moment kind of took you back to the past when the pressure became overwhelming and you didn't have the tools to engage with it. So the stress starts to come in, the overwhelm. When we think about being flooded emotionally, our cognitive brain turns off and our fight, flight, freeze brain, primitive brain takes over. So that's where using the tools can be really helpful to reset our brain. Because like you said, nothing changed about the project, just your engagement with the project changed. I'm sure everyone, I'm looking through the chat as we're talking, and I see a lot of people identifying with this, you know, feeling overwhelmed, unclear deadlines, and the pressure building on them. And you can't change the deadline sometimes, right? You can't change the pressure, but it's, are you going to add more water bottles to your backpack, or are you going to take some of them out? So re-engaging in the tools that you have were necessary.
Excellent. Yeah. So then the next area that was definitely present was uncertainty. There was a lot of ambiguity to the project. There was no brief, or it was very vague. The expectations were unclear. We had a very tight 48 hours to get everything done, and we didn't know how it was going to go. The scope could have crept up, could have become bigger. So there was definitely a lot of uncertainty, which is part of the job. I do want to say that a lot of the work that we do is sometimes ambiguous in nature, right? We're asked to figure things out, create something amazing, right? So uncertainty was a big problem here for me.
Yeah. And I think with the uncertainty, it amps up that psychological response of fear that happens. Our rumination starts happening of what if, the 101 what ifs come into play of what if I can't succeed? What if I don't have the tools? What if this is the one problem that is not going to be manageable for me? And then that indecision freezes you.
Right.
And once we get into the high anxiety freeze stage, it's when the burnout starts to leak in. I don't know if I can handle this for long periods of time.
Exactly. And I like this slide because of the emotional results at the bottom. And those were exactly some of the feelings that were going through my head as I was sitting on that bench. Anxiety was always definitely very high. I was ruminating not only on what was going to happen in the future, but what had happened in the past, like you mentioned. Hesitation. I honestly didn't know how to get started. I'm like, how are we going to even start this project? So all those emotions were kind of going through my head at the time when that happened. So then the last, I guess, pillar would be the identity part of it, which, sometimes we hear the word identity. You're like, well, what exactly do you mean? And I feel like because of the work that we do, it's very personal to us. Our identity can somehow be very tied together. And it's something that I've learned more and more with time that, sometimes rejection can feel personal. Sometimes, I don't know why, but even after 20 plus years in the industry, when I get a new project, I'm like, can I do this? Do I even know how to do this project? Can I do it successfully? And it's even harder when you're, leading a team. So identity is very tied to everything. So can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, and I think this is where the imposter syndrome comes in, when you doubt your own identity in this moment. And the personalization, I saw a question in the chat, someone talking about how do you disconnect your identity of a designer or creative from your work individual. And that's where the criticism and feedback comes in, right? Criticism can be personal. Feedback is about the project, but also recognizing that the imposter syndrome comes in. We go into depth in our workshop about the 5 different types of imposter syndrome, but the key between them all is it's persistent self-doubt. It's overthinking, wanting to overachieve, not just to hit the goal, but to, overcome the goal.
Right.
Crediting your success to luck, not seeing all the hard work that you put into it, and quietly minimizing everything that you've accomplished up to that point. It's really looking at the fact that you belong there. There's proof that you belong there. You were hired, you have the training, and leaning into that. So we have to identify what kind of imposter syndrome you're feeling, whether the perfectionist, the superhero, the soloist, etc., and then look at all the other areas in their life that you succeed.
Absolutely. No, this is great. And so the three pillars that we like to talk a lot about, and we do a deeper dive during our full workshop, is, the pressure of the work, the uncertainty of the work, and also the identity that is kind of tied together. And I feel like when those 3 things come together over time can definitely lead to burnout if they're not managed well. So again, it's really important to know the signs so that you can recognize them and act as they're coming up. But we also have to know and have tools to better manage burnout. So in this section, I think we would like to dive into a little bit of what those tools are.
Yeah, and I'm going to dive into that one really quickly, but I'm seeing a lot of this in there of like how to calm the overthinking.
Yes.
And that questioning of self. The one thing I can give you today is your brain lies to you.
Yes.
It lies to you out of protection. It lies to you out of a desire to feel safe. And sometimes those truths that it's telling you are completely unfounded. When we feel anxious and overwhelmed, our brain's response is, let's get out of this environment. So if it convinces you that you shouldn't be there, then you leave that environment and the brain feels safe again. But we don't need to take everything it tells us as truth. We can look for the proof in that.
Yeah.
So go ahead.
No, I was going to add to that during our workshop, we talk about affirmations a lot. And one affirmation that I use a lot is, I always tell myself this, is that you're not what you think, you're what you do.
Yes.
And I think it's adding to what you're saying. Sometimes our brains just take over. And even though you're not being rational about the feelings that you're feeling or maybe how you're acting, your brain still takes over. And, you have to remember that you're not what you think, you're what you do. So it's how you respond to the situation that really matters.
Yeah, definitely. And it's not lying to you because it wants to be harmful. It's lying to you out of protection.
Out of protection. Absolutely.
But that protection isn't always necessary. So the tools for managing burnout, the good news is we don't have to carry all those water bottles we talked about earlier, right? We can take some of them out of the backpack. Stress is a part of life. We can't magically make stress go away. It'd be great if we could. We are also not conditioned to live in the society that we live in right now. We are not meant to have millions of connections and access to everything. So that is really powerful for us to engage with. So that creates a lot of the stress. And pressure is part of creative work. It's not going to go away. The goal isn't to eliminate this. It's to build systems to help you remove those weights from your backpack. 3 things that we come back to again and again on just the interwoven stuff is boundaries, community, and identity. So 2 seconds. If you think about your boundaries, they protect your energy. Your boundaries are for you, not for other people. We don't put boundaries around them. We put boundaries around ourselves. So think of it like a fence, not a wall. A wall separates you, isolates you, and can be a prison for you and not just protection. So we want the fence because the fence helps you decide what comes in and what stays out. Boundaries aren't about shutting people out. It's about protecting your capacity to let more people in. You can't set your boundaries if you haven't identified where you need them. So knowing your emotional and physical limits is the first step. And it's okay. Some people have the capacity to handle more, and some people have the capacity to handle less. So there's nothing negative or judging about any of those. Some boundaries we have to set are big. It could be saying no to a project, telling someone that you don't have the bandwidth for it. But more often they're small. Asking for a clarity on a question is a boundary. Not moving forward on a project unless you know exactly what you're going to do. Delaying your response, like I don't have to respond within 3 seconds of receiving this message on Teams. I can breathe for a minute and really check in with myself. And then planning ahead and protecting your time for recovery is important. And sometimes boundaries aren't about people at all. They're about systems. So like Barney said earlier, one of his first things he did was he removed himself from that environment. He stepped outside, he took a breath, he interrupted the stress response before reacting. That was his boundary. His boundary was I'm going to pause and engage before I react. And then later, after the project was over, I'm not sure if he talked about this clearly, was he created a better intake process for his team on these new projects. The pressure didn't disappear, but the better systems help prevent unnecessary pressure in the future. And it protected his team. Because as a manager, oftentimes we have to create boundaries for our team's energy and not always just for our individual energy. The boundaries didn't eliminate the stress. It just prevented unnecessary stress. Not because boundaries are selfish, it makes them sustainable. And oftentimes when we create a boundary at work, it can feel like abandonment or rejection for coworkers and a supervisor. So understanding that going into it is really important. The next thing was community. Community protects your perspective. When you have more eyes on a situation, you can feel supported and engaged. So when we're overwhelmed, our world gets smaller. We start believing we're the only ones that struggle. From Barney's first story, he talked about he thought it was just him that was going through that. But if you go into work and you talk about the Sunday scaries and not wanting to go to bed, it's amazing how many people engage with that. We compare ourselves to others. We question ourselves. We carry things alone that were never meant to be carried alone. The workload is too high for one person. You have to connect with others. Community reminds us that we're human. And sometimes that community looks like a mentor. Sometimes it's coworkers. Sometimes it's a creative group, like joining one of these amazing podcasts and learning opportunities. It can be a Slack channel, volunteering, or simply having one trusted person to engage with where you can say, I'm struggling right now. Can you listen to me? And that's what Barney did next, right? He didn't stay outside and solve the problem by himself. He came back in when he was ready to regulate, and he engaged with his director and other managers and problem solved as a group and not independently. Because community doesn't mean that you're dependent on others. It just means that you have more perspective to engage with. Did you want to talk about the mentoring issue?
Yeah, no, I think one thing that I felt to mention in the story, just because I didn't want to make it too long, because I know I can talk a lot. It was that one of the things that prompted me to look at my phone when I was sitting at the bench was that one of my mentees had actually sent me a message saying how they were able to get an interview and they were excited. And that was like, I felt like that was kind of the message that I needed. I have a very large network of mentees that I'm always communicating with and talking to. And that is part of my community. And we share a lot of things, good and bad. And when I got that message, it immediately prompted me to start thinking outside of work and thinking about others. And then that's kind of where the picture started and how everything kind of turned around for me. So having a good community in place for when things happen, it's very important.
Yeah. And recognizing that you don't have to be seasoned for 20 years to be a mentor. You can just help someone who is maybe struggling on your team.
Correct.
Or struggling in your network, and giving them support and guidance in that moment. Support doesn't make you weak, but isolation does make you fragile.
Absolutely.
So the last one is identity. And this is the hardest one for creatives, because what you make feels personal.
Mm-hmm.
For many years, Barney identified primarily as a designer. Would you like to expand on that a little bit?
Yeah, no, for sure. I think for many years, I identified as a designer. And if I wasn't happy at work, I wasn't happy anywhere else. My career, I hate to admit it, but I did put my career first. And I thought that I had to do anything to keep this track going. And I wanted to be the best creative, the best designer at the time. And I felt like that really drove everything I did. So again, having a bad moment at work would translate to having a bad moment at home. And I know that went on for a while. And I learned from that lesson that, I'm not just a creative person. I'm not just a designer. I'm also a father. I'm a husband. I'm a friend. I'm a mentor. I like to go fishing. I like running. So there's different things that really complete who I am, and not just this one element. And I think when I was able to not necessarily remove it, but add more to that identity bucket, I was able to overcome a lot of things.
Yeah. And it's reminding yourself that creative is a descriptor of who you are. It's not totally who you are.
Mm-hmm.
So something that I often tell people is to make a list. Drop down and have all the different identities that you stand by, or the descriptors that you have, and how many of them have to be removed until you're not you anymore.
Right.
And I'm sure taking away your career is not the only deciding factor of when you lose that internal self.
Right.
So, and that's what Barney did when he went outside. He started looking at who he was outside of work and reminding himself, well, in that moment he was losing resiliency, but that didn't mean he wasn't resilient in other places. He wasn't avoiding the problem. He wasn't distracting himself. He was reconnecting with this whole body so that he can engage back in there.
Mm-hmm.
And so having hobbies and relationships and friends don't distract you from who you are. It protects who you are, and reminding that. So all of these things start to remove those bottles from the backpack. Right. It gets a little bit lighter. Stress becomes inevitable, but your boundaries protect your energy, community protects your perspective, and identity protects your resilience. And together they remove enough water bottles so that you can carry the pressure of creative work without losing yourself in the process. And just remember, you can always ask somebody to help hold those bottles as well.
Right.
The backpack doesn't only have to stay on yourself. You can lean into others to get that support.
Absolutely.
Okay.
That was great. So here, now that we're getting towards the end of the chat, we wanted to go into our 3-minute reset and wanted to share some tools that hopefully you all can find helpful. This is a very trimmed down list from what we typically share. I think we share 12 or more tools, but I feel like these are the ones that I feel fit really well with this audience, but also with everything we've talked about today.
Yeah. So when you start to get that feeling of dread and overwhelm and disconnect, you're going to follow Barney's example. You're going to change your setting. Maybe you can't walk outside and see the sun, but maybe you can walk to the restroom. Right. I tell people, have a little dance party in the bathroom, breathe, get some water, reset yourself. So while you're in that bathroom having that dance party, you're going to move your body.
Right.
When we are anxious, we can get frenetic energy built up in us. So honor that. If your body is telling you to wiggle, if it is telling you to move around, then do that. That's why we have fidget spinners and different things to connect with. And because we have to get that energy out of you. You're going to breathe. You're going to inhale for 3. You're going to hold for 2 and exhale for 6. So you get that extended ventilation, because when we're stressed, we shut down and we shallow breathe. And it's hard to think clearly when we're lacking oxygen. So just remember, we're really complicated plants. We really just want water, sun, and oxygen.
Our bare minimums.
And then laugh, even if it's not genuine. When we laugh, we change our energy. We change our engagement. We release endorphins. We use different muscles in our face, which signals different things in our body system. So laughing is important. If you can't do any of those, then the one thing you can do sitting down in a room and nobody will know is the 3-3-3. I think everybody has heard about the 5-4-3-2-1, 5 things you can see, 3 things you can touch. I can't remember which is which. That's too much sometimes, especially if I'm in a freak out moment. I'm not going to know, am I in 2, am I in 4? So 3, 3, and 3. You're going to identify 3 things that you can hear, 3 things that you can see, and 3 things that you can feel. So the 3 things that you can see, you want to be as descriptive as possible, because what we're doing again is we're turning on our cognitive brain and we're turning off our primitive brain and getting us out of that fight, flight, or freeze moment. And then the last thing that we have is ice on your wrists or the back of your neck, or cool water, or even if you have a cold water bottle. Everyone has their Stanleys these days, or their Owalas, or I'm not sure which one's popular right now, but you can put it on the vagus nerve to cool yourself down and reset your central nervous system. But I think that's your 3-minute reset. It's a quick, easy way to calm yourself. And just remember, if none of these work for you, or if you have something that works for you, find the flavor that you like best.
Absolutely.
It's not a one-size-fits-all thing. Someone mentioned in our last workshop that they lay on the ground and they have ground time. For Barney, that was a great idea. He loved that for that. For me, I was like, I don't want to lay on the ground. That doesn't sound fun at all. I think so. Find the thing that connects with who you are.
Yeah, no, I think for me, I didn't know that I was doing that, but for that purpose. But during COVID, working remote, there were times that I felt like, I had to be locked in this office for 8 hours or so. And I felt like laying on the ground just really reset me. I don't know why, but I would just lay on the ground and I just always tended to feel better afterwards. And I learning that that's a technique. It's great.
Yeah.
So yeah, finding the flavor that fits with you. So I think this is we're coming to the end of our session here. We again want to thank the AIGA for this invite. We're deeply passionate about this topic, and having a large audience like this one where we can talk about mental health in the creative industry is really important to us. So we're thrilled and happy to be here. We will be having a live happening this Saturday at 11 a.m. It's a Thriving Creatively Live. It's basically this topic, but it's extended into an hour and a half, where we go into a lot more tools, a lot more stories, but also we give away a lot more information. And then we also have a couple of fun digital exercises that we've been putting together. So again, thank you for having us. We're very happy to be here, and we would love to answer any of your questions. So with that, we'll hand it back over to Rachel.
Sounds good. Thank you so much, both of you. It's such a nice middle of the day bit of therapy for the creative soul. This is really helpful. As you can tell from the chat, there was a lot of comments. Thank you all for contributing to the chat. One of the comments that I love is from Alina. She said, I randomly signed up for this webinar and I feel so seen right now. So yes, great. It's so wonderful. There's such great sentiment. Rebecca saying thank you both for sharing. Your work is so important. Leilani said, this is great. Allison said, thank you so much. So we are going to get to your questions. Most definitely, please vote those up. And Barney and Alicia, we're going to give you 1 minute break. And we'll go, we'll do a pop quiz, and then we will bring you back. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, guys. Yes, we're taking a 1 minute break. So breathe in, breathe out, get a little sip of water, and it's time to see what actually stuck besides a newfound urge to take a beat, a breath, and lay on the floor. All right, so it's time for our pop quiz question, and the winner gets an hour of consulting with Thriving Creatively. So get ready. Here we go. Okay, according to Barney and Alicia, which of these is a major sign of burnout, not just a rough week? You're going to want to put your answer in the chat. Ready? Is it A, you feel numb to the work that you used to love? Is it B, you got a compliment from a client and you feel proud? Is it C, you took a vacation and came back refreshed? Or is it D, you're tired after a big deadline? All right, put your answer in the chat. We are going to choose one winner right now, and the winner gets an hour of consulting with Thriving Creatively. All right, also be sure to check out Barney and Alicia's live virtual workshop for a deeper dive into Thriving Creatively this weekend. I would say check the chat, but the chat is really moving right now. So we will follow up with a link in the email. All right. And I think we will be choosing a winner pretty soon. But for now, let's bring Barney Alicia back. We will have some questions. And of course, we need answers.
Okay.
We're ready.
Okay, great. So we have one question from Jacqueline that was voted up 6 times.
Okay.
She says, why do we have such time pressures placed on us by our peers who don't understand the time it takes to think about, process a design issue, and come up with multiple design solution options? So why?
Yeah, I mean, I'll take that one. I think that I think that's something that I was hitting on earlier, is that, you know, the nature of our work is ambiguous, but it's happens for many reasons. One of it is that a lot of the times people that are working outside of the creative environment don't know what it takes to do the creative work, right? And if you are working within a team, or maybe you don't have a leader that it's not able to communicate that and manage, you know, what happens outside of the creative team, yes, you're going to be hit with a lot of last minute, high pressure, high volume work, and you're not going to be protected. I've seen throughout my career, early in my career, being a designer, where I was just intaking work and it was always coming left and right, and I didn't really have a lot of control over what was coming and the pace. And I did feel helpless, but I'm learning now as a manager and leading teams, is that it's really the structure around the creative team that needs to be built in order for creative professionals to be protected. So, which is why we talk about boundaries, right? Boundaries feel tough, but even as an individual, if you start putting boundaries, it could eventually do that work. But definitely, the reason why we deal with such type of work is because it's the system around us that sometimes it's broken.
And the important thing to do is to communicate about the unseen work. It's easy to see when someone's sitting at the computer when they're actually doing something in front of you. But for creatives, a lot of it is internal within their mind. It may seem like avoidance or distraction, but the back conscience is working on this actively. So letting your peers or your supervisors know what your process looks like so that they can understand what you're going through.
Right. Yeah. And also documenting when things go wrong, when things are delayed, when projects could have been better. This is an opportunity for you to communicate that up the chain, right? If the team had more time, this could have been better. And it's the type of work you always have to do in your career, but it's what I typically recommend.
Thank you for answering that, Jacqueline. Thank you for asking. And I would also have to add that as a manager, it's really important to also set that expectation among your team. So not only telling your manager up, but you also need to set that expectation to everybody as well.
Absolutely.
All right. Yeah. All right. So next question from Cecile. When your passion becomes your livelihood, how do you protect the joy of creating from turning into a constant production?
Gosh, that's a great question. Yeah. I think we hit on that a little bit. It's by, it's by having, what I typically recommend is having things outside of work to bring you that happiness. I don't know how many times I've sat in meetings with my team where they're expressing feeling like they're losing that passion, and I tell them, sometimes you can't just come to work to be happy. This job, it's not your source of happiness. Being a creative and doing creative work may be, but this particular job may not be your source of happiness. So how can you find happiness outside of work? You want to add to that?
Yeah, and it's doing other creative outlets. I mean, right. I do not identify myself as a creative person. I will own that. But I have never met with someone either that their only creativity is one lane. Right. Typically, there's other lanes. So if your job is putting pressure on you in one area, fill your bucket from other areas. Right. So like for Barney, he can do design, but he loves photography. Right. So photography feeds that passion so that he still has energy for design. So finding those outlets are really important.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Barney also loves catfishing. So
I do.
That's most definitely important as well.
I'll say a little bit about that. So I even have a fishing pole in my car right now. So sometimes when I'm driving from work and I'm maybe I've had a tough day, I do stop and I'll go fishing for even 30 minutes just to kind of be outside and decompress.
Such a great idea. Definitely prepare. All right. Question from Leilani is, how do you manage the internal pressure to always push yourself? I'm always balancing work projects, personal projects, maintaining an online presence, etc. Even if my job is to chill at the moment, I am not. LOL.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, God.
I think for that is to identify the purpose behind it. Are you overachieving because you're trying to reach a goal? Is it a fear of not being enough? And if it is, then that has to be addressed outside of that. We cannot find all of our joy through others. It has to be found internally. So giving yourself permission to rest. And I also think we have a society where rest is not valued.
Yes.
Right? The idea of lazy, that is definitely a timeout word in therapy for me. If a client calls themselves lazy, because there's no such thing as laziness. We are resting when we need to, and you need to do that occasionally. So that internal drive of I need to do more, we got to unpack as to what is fueling that.
Right. And so one thing that I offer a lot to my mentees and even during their workshop is a book called Psycho-Cybernetics. It's a book about the self, and it really helped me personally identify what were some of the hidden things that were driving that energy of always wanting to create something new, start a business, start a project, go somewhere else, right? And doing that internal work really helped me out.
Great. Thank you so much. Leilani, thank you for asking that question. I think we have at least time for one more. Dan is asking, in our field, the tactics of design can be highly addictive because of the challenge of solving the problem or project. Can you provide some insight into the dopamine or process, why the work can be addicting, and what avenues can we use to be more healthy with our choices?
Gosh, that's a great question.
That's a great question.
Finding identifying again the balance that comes with that, because it is addicting.
Yes.
Especially if you have some area of some neurodivergence in there, ADHD, that constant dopamine hit is important. And the society of social media and online engagement has increased our need for that dopamine. So it's about slowing down and taking a step back. If you are immediately logging on the second your eyes are open and you are working late into the night so that you can get that feeling of self-worth, it's about building your identity outside of that. A lot of this falls into those three categories, right? Having your community, which is bigger than just design, having your identity created so that that imposter syndrome doesn't engage, and definitely finding your boundaries in life are important. So that balance comes from external things and then translated into work.
Yeah, it's all about filling that bucket, right? You know, right now you're filling just one of the buckets, right? So let's put some of that energy somewhere else. I identify a lot with this question. I think the dopamine hit for me, it's big when it comes to doing creative work. So that's why I like doing yard work. I like fishing. I like hiking because it takes me away from my phone, takes me away from the computer, takes me away from starting that next project.
Thank you so much.
And it's okay to build boredom, right? Like we don't know how to be bored anymore.
No,
so build boredom. Even if it's uncomfortable, we are allowed to be uncomfortable. We are allowed to sit and think, I could be doing 47 other things. But that's where mindfulness comes in and some meditation.
Absolutely.
I think creativity comes from boredom. I mean, I think it's really hard that we don't have boredom like we used to when we were growing up. So I always say tell the youngers, it's like, it's okay that you don't have a device right now. Just sit with your thought for 5 minutes, and it's very tough.
Something to learn.
There's a question from Jacqueline. She's asking, as participants, is there a way for us to save the chat? That just means that the chat is so rich with information.
It really is.
Jacqueline, we're going to try and save it for you and list it somewhere. We will, producers and I will try to figure that out.
I had the same question, so I'm with Jacqueline.
That is great. Yes.
Oh my gosh, so honest and practical and genuinely needed. So thank you so much for you both for helping us see the burnout and the imposter syndrome as the things that, we can actually do something about. And it's not that we're just trying to push through and knuckle through. Honestly, we're just grateful. Again, clap emojis in the chat, please. You can already see it's just moving. I can see it in the corner of my eye. Everyone is talking. And I would just want to say thank you both. Again, we appreciate you.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. All right, guys, we had such a great session. I am glad that you're still talking. Definitely check out, again, Barney and Alicia's live virtual workshop for a deeper dive into thriving creatively this weekend. The link is coming in the either chat. Oh, thank you so much for all the clap emojis. It'll also come in the follow-up email. All right, so before we go, let's talk about that pop quiz. The question was, according to Barney and Alicia, which of these is a major sign of burnout, not just a rough week? And the answer is A, you feel numb to the work you used to love. The winner of the 1 hour consulting with Thriving Creatively is Dylan. Congratulations to Dylan. Dylan, definitely contact Heather at togetherby.design to coordinate your time. So thank you again for delivering in the chat, guys. So that's a wrap for this season of the Practical Institute for Creative Survival. We are heading into a summer break, so definitely take some of what you learned today and actually use it. Rest and reset and protect your energy. And thank you, fellow AIJ members, for joining us for class. I'm Rachel Elnar, and we will see you at maybe next semester of Practical Institute for Creative Survival. Meanwhile, thank you so much for joining us, and thank you, everyone. Bye-bye, guys.